Welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast, part of Full Press Radio. This is September the 13th, 2021. With you today is myself, Carl, and Stevie Nick.
I just realized I whispered go into the microphone when we started. Did you hear that?
It threw me off.
Did it?
Yeah.
Good, I'm glad.
It is good.
Happy Monday, Carl.
Happy Monday. Nick is with us. You may notice he sounds a little different, and that's okay.
Yeah,
but he's here.
I had a little bit of a water mishap with my computer tower. So as it stands, I have to work with a different computer that I'm not normally working with and a different microphone setup. Hopefully just for this week.
Well, we hope that everything works out well. And your water mishap is a thing of the past.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how this goes. I mean, let's paint the picture for the listeners. I've got a Bluetooth kind of headset with the Britney Spears type microphone on it. So it's Carl can imagine me putting on my Vegas show if he wants. But what's really convenient for me is I just flip this microphone up and it mutes.
I can't hear you. You're right. I can't hear you at all.
I flip it back down, I can talk again.
So then so we know that when you have it flipped up, that's when you're doing the lip sync portion of your Britney Spears Vegas show.
That's right. Or I'm typing away because I need to look something up while we're talking.
Or just so the entirety, right? Nick's just going to have it up the entire time. He's just going to lip sync the show tonight. It's going to be very special.
That's essentially how I run my meetings at work. 80% of the time it's flipped up.
It's just pre-recorded Nick canned comments.
I built myself a Nick soundboard of just all the common things I say.
And actually 90% of them are Britney Spears lyrics.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nick, do you have this? Oops, I did it again. Really, Nick? Again? Yeah, I'm sorry.
Nick, can we assign this to you? Hit me, baby, one more time.
That's really all I know for Britney Spears lyrics. So
I could keep going, but I won't.
Well, we promised them big news this week, Nick.
We did.
We promised them big news this week. You told them that they had to wait till the end of the show. We're also going to start our previews. So let's see, maybe we'll put this news in somewhere else. But you had something that you came across this week that you wanted to bring to our attention.
Yeah. So I had to text Carl today because I saw a piece of news on the internet that I felt perfectly married the priorities of this podcast, because it brought together the worlds of A, hockey, and B, professional wrestling. So here's what's going on. There is a 4-time Stanley Cup winner who will be participating in a professional wrestling match in the ICW. Have you ever heard of this? The ICW?
Never.
I believe it stands for Independent Championship Wrestling.
Okay.
The 4-time Stanley Cup winner is none other than
Wait. Let me guess. Is it? See, I was just looking them up. Sadly, Sidney Crosby has 3 Stanley Cups. I was hoping it was him.
Oh, you haven't looked at it yet?
No.
Oh, man.
So tell me then. I was hoping, but now let's just rip the Band-Aid off.
Now that you've heard the first name,
yeah,
Mr. Darren McCarty. So apparently, ICW's ripping through Fenton, Michigan, in the coming weeks, and apparently Darren McCarty is a big professional wrestling fan, and apparently he's going to be participating in what is called a Deathmatch Circus as part of this ICW night. You ever heard of this?
What is a Deathmatch Circus?
Okay, so I had to look it up too, and I came across a Wikipedia page called Professional Wrestling Match Types. There are a lot of them. So you kind of have to preface it. Oh, where did it go here? Do you know what a hardcore match is?
Yeah, like no holds barred. You can find whatever you want, use whatever you want.
Yeah. So that's a hardcore match. Okay. The death match is a variation of the hardcore. Okay. And I'm going to read this to you. It's not very long. Because you can't really make some of this stuff up. A more extreme version of a hardcore match. A death match is effectively the same as a hardcore match, only even more violent and bloody. Hence why the name is called a death match. In addition to blunt objects, death matches often include sharp objects and even more dangerous objects and elements such as bricks, nails, staple guns, explosives, thumbtacks, barbed wire, light tubes, standard glass, cactus plants, gardening tools, and even fire mixed with lighter fluid or gasoline. That's a death match.
That's everything. This is literally like whatever you want except for firearms. Like you can't shoot the guy.
This, like, it sounds, first of all, it sounds entertaining. I'll give them that. But it does not sound like the kind of thing that one of your non-professional wrestlers who's not trained with you should be participating in.
Okay, I'm finding pictures of this. This is terrifying.
It's almost like gore, right?
Yeah. So picture the second picture I found, which is the less gruesome of the two, is someone taking fluorescent light bulbs and smashing them over someone's head. But the first one, he literally has a reciprocating saw and is holding the guy by the hair and just going to town on him.
Like,
Darren McCarty is not getting out of this. This literally might be a death match for Darren McCarty. And I do not hope that happens.
So it goes there's different types of death matches. Okay. So this tweet promotes this match as a Deathmatch Circus. So I found this on the Wikipedia page. A circus death match is a type of scaffold where in the ring there's a scaffolding, and under that scaffolding there's a type of spider net made of barbed wire 6 feet below. The first wrestler to fall off the scaffold into the barbed wire spider net loses.
So they're fighting on scaffolding.
Over the ring. The ring is covered in barbed wire netting.
I mean, so I watched, I told you when we did our movie segment last week that I watched that Shang-Chi in The Legend of the Ten Rings. Spoilers, there is a scaffold fight scene in that movie, but without the barbed wire below. And so I think if I was Darren, I would probably watch that movie and get some tips.
What I don't understand, Carl, is like Darren McCarty is not a young fellow anymore.
He's what, 50 probably?
I'm going to look it up right now. He's not young, and he's been through the ringer.
Yes.
He's 49 years old. Wow, good guess. You went over though, so you don't win anything.
Shoot.
So I don't know if I could watch this. Like, I don't think I have the stomach to watch something like a death match.
Especially like it's literally, because I think back to like, I mean, I think we all had our times in our teens, especially when we were big into wrestling. And I think back to like the wrestling match of like Mankind being thrown down onto the thumbtacks. That like stands out to me as just like a shocking moment, right?
Yes.
But now this guy's going to fall 6 feet through barbed wire.
Yes.
And then land on the ground.
It doesn't sound like something I would ever want to be a part of.
No. I have no look. Like I'm not necessarily like a wimpy person by any means, but I am not tough enough to handle anything like that.
There is, as I came across in my research, there's another type of death match. I don't know if I could talk about it on the air. You might need to remind me later unless you really want to beat this out.
Okay.
And if any listeners want to know, they could send me a tweet after and I'll let them know what it is. But remind me later because I need to read this to you.
Okay. Well, stay tuned for that later, folks. Or send Nick a tweet. You can tweet it at us at Fourth Line Podcast or at Nick Sagan 19.
Yep. And I'm going to provide Carl also with the screenshot of this type of death match If you want to make it fun, go to the Wikipedia page, read about them all, and then you guess which one I'm talking about right now.
Okay. Well, we got, you know what? Let's just take our break right now. We'll see you on the other side. We'll be right back. Just kidding. We can't do that. Do we want... Okay. So Darren McCarty's doing that. I hope one of our listeners, because it looks like they might be streaming it as well. So it looks like you could tune in, or if you're in Fenton, Michigan, pick up some tickets.
It also says 11:30 is the match time, but it doesn't specify whether that's AM or PM.
I feel like you can't do a death match in the morning. A morning death match just hits a little differently.
Like you can't have a match like that while the sun's still up.
No, that is definitely an 11:30
PM. It is PM.
Okay. All right.
And the picture they have of Darren McCarty is like 20 years old.
Hey, no one wants to show up to watch 49-year-old Darren McCarty just get destroyed. Or do they?
I don't know. I can't figure out who would agree to do something like that.
Oh, it's unfortunate to say the least. All right. We got a small amount of news this week. We're going to start our division previews. We're going to start on the West Coast. So news of the week. We had multiple coaches today. Most notably, Sylvain Lefebvre of the Columbus Blue Jackets, assistant coach, stepping down due to the decision to not get vaccinated, which does not actually let him be on the bench. You have to, if you are unvaccinated, you have to remain at least 12 feet away from players, and it's hard to do that while also being behind the bench.
Yeah, it's not hard to do. It's impossible to do. The benches aren't getting bigger. There's going to be people in the stands behind you.
Yeah, now that the arenas are going to be full again, you can't just have no glass and ads behind you.
You can't do the hockey dads thing where you stand up at the railing, like on the top level, and just yell at the kids the whole time.
Yeah, shoot. That's what his job will be.
Well, it will be now because he's no longer part of the coaching staff.
It's true. So, I mean, that's an interesting choice there. I saw assistant coach with the Avalanche's AHL team also stepping aside. So this is a thing that I think as we get closer to the season and teams start to find these things out and sort through them, we'll start to see more and more of this. And I guess just depending on the amounts, we'll see how many it is.
Has this happened in other leagues? Like, have we seen this in baseball or basketball or football yet?
We've seen it in football. I actually think there was a coach, I want to say with the Vikings, that was fired due to the decision to not. So instead of them like stepping down, they were like, look, this is your choice. You can choose what you want, but we're not having you.
See, that's where my mind goes with these things because I'm a dork. I like to think about like the office administration side of it. Like, do you think they're firing him or is he resigning?
Right. Are they? Yeah, because there's ramifications of both.
Yeah, I mean, you can terminate him with cause at this point because he's not following the rules that you've laid out as part of your organization.
Right, or literally unable to perform the duties required.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I just wonder what that paperwork looked like.
That's fair. I do believe today's was a stepping down.
With Columbus?
With Columbus, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, like I kind of wonder what he's going to do now. Unless he's going to go like be a video coach or something where he doesn't have to be around people that closely. Like he's going to have a hard time finding a job coaching right now. I
would suggest, I mean, not because of any decisions, but of places that could hire him. I would suggest at about 11:30 p.m. this weekend, he heads to Fenton, Michigan. And there's something called a Deathmatch Circus that I'm sure they'd probably have him there.
I don't have my list up anymore, but I'm sure there's a type of death match where it's just a bunch of like needles below them.
Maybe he's afraid of needles.
Lose that one. Maybe.
Could you imagine if that's how they do it? Just a Deathmatch Circus and the loser gets vaccinated.
There's 100 COVID vaccines and needles down there.
Don't land on it.
Don't land on them. Oh, that's funny. Goodness. So that's crazy. And I guess, from a player's perspective, I mean, we haven't heard anything about any players stepping down or opting out yet, but training camps are just, prospect tournaments are kind of happening now-ish, I think. So training camps are going to be happening in the next few weeks. So if any players are choosing to opt out due to vaccination status, we'll hear about it pretty soon.
Yes, they do not have. I mean, there is no requirement on the players to be vaccinated, though.
Is there not?
I thought there wasn't.
Oh, no, there's no requirement, but they got to do all those crazy quarantine stuff that we talked about last week.
They've got to quarantine. They've got to get tested more frequently. So
they can voluntarily opt out of the season, though.
Do you know, does that accrue a season off of their contract or not?
I think it depends. I believe it's a case-by-case basis with the team where they have the discussion whether they slide the contract by another year,
right,
or not.
Okay, interesting. Well, that'll be a thing that we'll be finding out here in the next few weeks. I know many players are. We see it in other sports, and it's really, honestly, gratefully, not much of an issue. We see it very, very rarely becoming the case. One thing that is interesting, so you mentioned, I don't know what's happening in other sports. We saw in baseball, there was rumors coming out this week that Major League Baseball had asked the Boston Red Sox to stop testing for COVID so that it was not an issue. Because they've had many, many players test positive throughout the season. It's just kind of a continuing thing. But apparently Major League Baseball, off the record, had asked them to stop testing. So
that's not how COVID works.
Yeah, I also am aware of that.
It's like if you're watching a scary movie, if you just close your eyes, it's not like you can't hear the sounds of the circus deathmatch happening on the screen.
That's true. Yeah, you can hear the sounds of Darren McCarty landing on vaccines from miles away.
It just makes me cringe to think about them putting their bodies through that.
Yeah. No, thank you. Well, do we want to get to the big news now?
Should we do it now? Yeah, let's do it. Because we got to do a whole division preview.
All right. So the big news is, would you say we're going on tour or we're having a tour? How would you describe this?
Well, I think, we are going on tour, but it's a metaphor. We're not literally going on tour.
Okay. I like that. So
we're metaphorically going on tour.
We're going on tour because, Nick, this is the final season of the Fourth Line Hockey Podcast.
That's right. This is it. We got one season left. It's our farewell tour.
We're retiring.
We are. And look, Carl, it's been a long career. Being on the fourth line is not easy on your body, particularly the vocal cords. It's been a long career of hustling and grinding it out, and it's time to call it.
Yeah, it has been. We're entering our 8th season.
That is actually wild. I've only been here for 2, 3. This will be my 3rd.
Is this your 3rd? This is
I think so.
Because you did one with the 3 of us.
Yeah.
Is this your 2nd with just us?
I don't know. I'm confused now because of the COVID year.
Yeah.
It was we did a whole season and then stopped, and then there was a new season with the bubble.
Yeah, because that's true. So this is your 3rd season with just us. I think this is your 4th.
Wow. So I've been here for half the time.
You've been, you're just as much of an owner of this as anyone else.
Am I the longest tenured co-host?
So if this is your 3rd, that means Joel was here for 4. No. 3 with I think you and Joel will tie at the end of this season.
Tie? All right. Yeah. I'll take that.
Yeah. So you're not the shortest tenured. I think the shortest goes to Dave. I think Dave was 25 episodes.
That was season 1?
Season 1, yeah.
Yeah.
But Crazy, you've been part of this since season 1, I want to say.
Yeah, pretty close.
As a listener, as part of just the community we have, it's been an amazing ride.
I saw your very first post on Hockey Reddit about how you guys started a podcast. And I remember starting to listen to it when I was cleaning my apartment on Queen Street a long time ago.
Yeah.
So I've been listening since episode 1.
Since the very first. You might be one of the only few that have listened that long.
Yeah. Could be.
If you also listened to episode 1 and are still listening today to what is going to be, I don't even know what episode number this is, 346. Let us know, because that's a special thing.
Yeah, because if you have been listening since episode 1, then you definitely know the type of deathmatch I was referring to not too long ago, because we're on a similar wavelength for sure.
So speaking of 346, we're looking at probably about 40 more episodes of the show if we're going, because we'll go like through the season. We'll do our season preview. We'll go through that, maybe do like a couple episodes into the summer. So let's round up from 40 more. Let's say we end up doing 390 episodes. Who finishes with more, us or Jamie Benn?
Us. Jamie Benn's not ready to score that many goals.
He's not going to score 90 more goals in his career.
How old is Jamie Benn right now?
I mean, as the
that's like
age
3.
sleuth.
So that's 3 30-goal seasons, but he's not in 30-goal seasons mode anymore, is he?
No, he's not. Jamie Benn is 32.
He's 32. And he's a centerman.
Yeah.
You know, those
he's moved to the wing now.
Don't go. Yeah, exactly, because he's 32.
Right.
Starting to slow down, right? So, like, even if he averages, he's not going to average 20 goals. Let's say he plays, 5 more seasons?
So this last season, he scored on an 82-game pace, 17 goals.
Okay, so let's use that as the average.
Okay.
If he plays, 5 more seasons?
Sure, yeah.
17 times 5, that's 85 goals.
So we might end up like right next to each other.
We're going to have to keep an eye on this, Carl. We can't let him finish ahead of us.
If we need to come out of retirement in a few years, like 5 years down the road when no one has any idea who we are anymore, we're going to come out of retirement and just start pumping out content. We'll just do like little 10-minute, just like quick little hitters about something and then shut her down again.
Absolutely. Maybe at that point, Jamie Benn will also be just as irrelevant as us, and he'll just come on and do the show with us. Imagine that. Could
you imagine if we bring Jamie Benn on for what would be our final episode just to get one more than him?
Just to get one more than him.
That would be spectacular. But here's one thing. So retirement tours the NHL. I think back to like the Sedins, right? And like their retirement tour. And they're going all over the place. And they are getting gifts all over the place.
Yeah, every city they went to, they got standing ovations, rounds of applause, handshakes, and presents. Like
a painting. I'm sure in Calgary they gave them cowboy hats or boots or something like that. In Toronto, they probably gave them a sense of entitlement. I don't know.
The Sedins had that already. Let's be honest.
So, one thing, what do you want as a retirement gift?
Oh man, what do I want as a retirement gift? I don't know, Carl. I don't really want anything. I just want peace and happiness for all.
So what do you
want? Like a monster truck or something?
I mean, look, if they're going to drive a monster truck out onto the ice, I'm not going to not take it. Like
a Zamboni. That's what we should get.
If Gravedigger drives out there, I'm going to say yes. Or a Zamboni. Like, I'm going to drive 10 kilometers an hour home and call her a day.
We shouldn't get, you know what we deserve? We deserve Fourth Line Podcast rings in the style of Stanley Cup rings.
Ooh. I think that's possible.
Right? I know a few pawn shops in the area.
just right on them. But here's my thought. So instead of us getting gifts, why don't we spend this year giving away gifts instead?
Yeah, I like that a lot. I would much rather do that than receive gifts. So we'll do the reverse Sedin tour.
The reverse Sedin tour. What's Sedin's backwards?
Sedins. Snides.
Snides. So
Snides tour.
Are we calling this the Snides tour?
Yeah. It's the reverse Sedin farewell. The Snides tour.
All right. So we're coming to a set of earbuds near you, and we're giving away gifts. So in the same way that you would get something on a retirement tour, we're going to give those away. We're cleaning out the coffers this year. We've got, not only do we have fourth line merch, right? But in this last year, we were giving away things from great folks like the store next door. Here's the other part that's great, Nick. A lot of the time, we've been using these giveaways as like a way to grow the show. Right?
Yep.
It's the last year. Who cares how big this show gets? We're giving these gifts away to the people who listen.
I love it.
So
I love it.
If you tune into this show, we're going to have just a giveaway. And we'll say, like, just tweet at us this thing or email us this. That's all it's going to take. We'll do random giveaways. We'll still play games. High sticking can still be a thing. Absolutely.
Yep.
But this is what we're doing.
Easy peasy. They are the best people to reward.
Exactly. If you're still here, if you can find a way to let us know or show us that you've been listening since episode 1, maybe like a deep cut from episode 1, which, by the way, episode 1, we already had significant, like my distaste of editing. Actually, episode 1, I was not the editor of that show. I was just a host.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's some good trivia.
So I did not edit that, but we did have to cut significant content out of that episode. So that was left on the cutting room floor.
Do you remember how many listens you got on episode 1?
Like the first week, you mean?
Yeah.
I don't.
Like 12?
Yeah, it was low. I think it was about episode 5 that it really started to get big. 5 or 6. I remember we jumped up to the top of the hockey charts, or not even hockey charts, but just sports charts. I have a picture of us. It was like Bill Simmons, us, and then like right after us was Dangle. And I was like, you know what? That's pretty good.
That's very good, Carl. It's quite an accomplishment.
And it didn't last long. We peaked early. But we've had such great times with our listeners and all those. So, but we're doing it. We're not going to just disappear on you. We're doing this last season. We thought we'd announce it and just enjoy this. So the rest of this show is just a regular show now.
And most of the season is too, plus giveaways.
Plus just more fun giveaways. Who doesn't like free stuff?
Everyone loves free stuff.
Everyone loves free stuff. Amazon shows up at your door, you're happy. Maybe we'll just send you Amazon packages. There's no way to know.
You won't even know what's inside.
Just a mystery Amazon present.
Might be a cheese grater.
Ooh. Or cheese.
Or cheese. Yeah, let's send cheese in the mail. That seems like a good idea.
Can we send people? You can send cheese in the mail. Can we just send people food? Is that what we could do? We
could do that, yeah.
We'll send them one ingredient to our favorite recipes. So each...
Like every week is a different ingredient? So that at the end of the year, they can make the dish?
At the end of the year, we're going to have a potluck and everyone has to bring something made with their recipe. Like, I don't know. This person's getting like some coriander. Or like
coriander. So random. What do you put coriander in?
I forget. I made something with coriander recently. I'm trying to remember what that was.
I don't know if I've ever cooked with coriander.
It's good. It's like got a real kick to it. But anyways, that's not our job to figure out. That's the listeners. When they get coriander, that's up to them. All right, let's take a break. We'll be back on the side. Preview in the Pacific. Three, two, one.
Whew, that was a pretty good break. I'm rested up and ready to go.
So during the break, Nick told me about the unheard of death match, and I can confirm that it is not safe for anything, and I regret knowing about it. But on a different note, I did want to just give a little message, because I was drinking this cup of tea to keep the old vocal cords nice and refreshed, and it left a message for me on the tag of it. It said, "Friendship is a sheltering tree," and I hope that in this, our final season, that we can be a sheltering tree to our listeners, which is the exact opposite of that death match you
There you go. Thank you for bringing some balance to our conversation here.
Very much so. So let's get into it. We're going to preview the Pacific Division. We have only left ourselves 30 minutes to preview what is now 8 teams. Typically, the last 3 years you've been on the show, we've started at the bottom and risen to the top of our predictions.
Yes.
Shall we do that again?
Yeah, I definitely think we should. And I was kind of thinking about this before the show started, and I'm finding it hard to realign my mind to the proper divisions. I'm still thinking in terms of North Division. So when we were talking about Pacific, none of the Canadian teams entered my train of thought.
Well, let's get that focused, because we don't only have that, but we have the Seattle Kraken are in this division, which means if we go back 2 seasons ago, before COVID was a thing, Arizona was a team in the Pacific Division. They are now not.
Yep, because of the Seattle Kraken, which is probably the only interesting thing in this division this year.
There is some things to note. Let's start at the bottom, which there are certainly some teams at the bottom of this division. Is there a team that stands out to you, Nicholas, Darren, Sagan, as a bottom team? You were named after Darren McCarty, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go with that. I'm that young. There is a team that stands out to me, and that is the Anaheim Ducks. And I say that because they haven't really changed at all from last year to this year.
No, they've really only gotten worse.
Yeah. Especially relative to how much better their division's gotten with the inclusion of the Canadian teams. I just can't see them rising above anyone else in the division.
Let's be fair. They did have the President's Trophy winning Colorado Avalanche in their division last year. So let's not think that there's like only good teams that they're having to face now. They're literally not playing against the best team in the league.
Yeah, and they're also playing against other bad teams, and they're still going to be at the bottom of this division.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, this is a team that every year, I feel like you could just go back and replay what we said last year about these Ducks, because the same things are happening. Ryan Getzlaf still with this team for some reason. Like, I get being committed to staying with an organization your entire career, but Ryan, Ducks fans don't hold it against you if you go chase another cup. They want your happiness.
But don't you think there's some sort of agreement there that come trade deadline time, he'll provide them with a list of teams that, he's got a no move clause, but you got to think that he would waive that at the trade deadline to go to a team who's in the hunt.
Absolutely. Yeah. For sure that would be the case.
The big question though for the Ducks is like, what is that team going to pay for him? Like, you're not going to get much for him at this stage.
No, and I don't think that they are looking for that. I think back to what the Habs paid a 3rd round pick for Eric Stahl last year, and that wasn't even a deadline trade. That was like sooner than the deadline. So that's kind of what I would expect.
But
Ryan
Eric
Getzlaf.
Stahl's better, and the Ducks need to be collecting their draft picks right now.
Is he better?
I think so. I haven't looked at any of the stats, but I'm just going to say yes.
The good news for the Ducks is that this is the final year that they have to have Ryan Kessler's salary on IR. And then then they'll all get invited to Kess's house and they can go find out what's happening there too.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Oh man, I wish you didn't bring that up. That's the good news. The great news is their salary cap looks really good right now. So, like, I really think they're getting through the bad years of the last kind of guard, and they're going to have a pretty clean slate to start on in the coming years.
Yeah, the only thing I think that management is perhaps, and I don't think that they should be, but for some reason they're under the impression that Dallas Eakins is not what they need with this organization. So it's like I would not be surprised if at any point they moved on from him. But I mean, you're not even giving him a great roster to work with. So let's not get too carried away.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that matters at this point for them because they're not going to be competitive anytime soon, anyways.
Hardly, no. All right, let's move up then. So first up, the Ducks. Second off.
Oh, second off. I kind of want to say San Jose.
I also want to say San Jose.
Do you? If something feels not good about that, though.
Why? They were near the bottom last year. They were still not good.
I know, but they have some names that are still good on this team. They have some names that have to be good on this team based on how long they have them locked up for.
Such as?
Like Erik Karlsson, Brent Burns, Marc-Edouard Vlasic. Obviously, all three of them are past their prime right now, but like they have to be better for this team.
Marc-Edouard Vlasic, is significantly past his prime at this point.
Yeah. Why do they have him for so long?
Because it's still the era of like, hey, you want to sign a guy to a reasonable dollar amount? Yeah, sign him for forever. And that's why they got him for $7 million instead of like paying an actual normal price and getting him for shorter.
They're also going to lose their leading scorer, I'm assuming they're going to lose their leading scorer this coming year in Evander Kane.
Now, how do you think that they will lose him? Because I agree. But is because the team doesn't seem happy with him? Legal proceedings don't seem happy with him. What do you think the result of that is? A trade?
And they're going to try to trade him for sure. The question is, and we've kind of talked around this when we were talking about the Hurricanes a couple weeks ago and Tony DeAngelo and, all these guys in the league, they all know each other across different teams. They've all played with each other growing up. It wouldn't surprise me if it's hard for them to find a landing spot for Evander Kane in the league. Because despite his skill level, I think the players have a lot of say in terms of who comes into the locker room and how they're treated.
Yeah, and rumors, like you said, is also interconnected that folks know whatever it is. I don't know, but the locker room seems to not want him to be a part of it. And other locker rooms will likely follow suit. I agree with that. So I think the ship has sailed on them getting a strong return for him, if any,
yes.
Like you said.
Yes. But if they can't trade him, then I don't know what you do. You can't buy this contract out, right?
No, you're just going to ride that out. They do have Thomas Hertl. His deal is up at the end of this year. He is one that will for sure not be on this team by the end of the season.
Yeah, nor should he be. That's a really good trade deadline piece.
Yeah, so you can be looking at him on the top of trade deadline boards all over the place. Next up is when this starts to get a little bit harder for me because we're looking. So let's flip back to before COVID. We have 3 teams from this division make the playoffs and 2 wildcard teams. Okay. I next want to put perhaps the Los Angeles Kings.
I think I agree with you. The only other one I was kind of thinking about was Vancouver.
Ooh, see, I was also thinking Canadian, but I was thinking Calgary.
I'm not ready to put Calgary that low.
If we look back to last year, Vancouver and Calgary were very close to each other in the standings. I mean,
I know, and they played well into the playoffs too.
Yeah, they were playing games during the playoffs. That's what counts, right?
Yeah.
But if we think back, like, I mean, in that division from last year, neither of those teams did it. Anyways, let's save that debate. Do you want to do
Los
the Kings?
Angeles.
Let's
do the Kings.
We'll stay in California and then we'll head to Canada.
Okay. I think the Kings, out of the 3 California teams, are the ones who are in the best position now and the best position for the next few years. Like, their upwards trajectory is going to be much faster than the other 2 California teams.
Absolutely. For a few reasons. One, I mean, your Sharks reason applies the opposite to here, right? Though the Sharks with all their bad contracts, right?
Yeah.
This team does not have very many of those. Sure, they have Drew Doughty signed. Drew Doughty's still a contributing member of this team. Yep. They've got Anze Kopitar signed, absolutely a helpful member of this team. But other than that, there are no bad long-term deals. Dustin Brown's deal ends this year. Jonathan Quick has 2 years left on him. They signed Philip Deneau this offseason. Quentin Byfield's going to be a part of this team most likely this year. So, I mean, we're looking at a lot of things to be excited about.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think I really like the Deneau signing for them. And you mentioned Byfield. Like, there's a couple other really young guys who we should start to see taking off. Gabe Velarde, who's taken much longer than I thought he would to break in. He's going to be part of this team.
The same. Alex Turcotte, another one who should be part of this roster soon.
Yeah. Like, they're going to, over the next few years especially, they'll be good. But I think we're going to start seeing flashes of it this year. Not enough to get them anywhere close to the playoffs.
No, but they're set up well, right? And they're making those moves. And so when I think next year in free agency, this is a team that's going to make a move because they'll be ready for it. They'll have that cap. I mean, they'll have to hit the salary floor somehow, and they're going to have to spend to be able to get there.
Now, do you think Jonathan Quick's going to be on this team by the end of this year? Because he was someone he was all over the trade rumors last year.
Yeah, and I would not think that. I would not be surprised to see him moved. Because I mean, he's not the future of this team. They can go and pick someone else up and just be flexible in that regard. There's not a name here doesn't stand out as there's no one that stands out looking at this roster as a significant prospect, but I just could not be super aware. I'm sure Kings fans right now were telling me how wrong I am. So
for goalies, you mean?
Yeah, for goalies.
How could anyone ever know?
Yeah, Kings fans who are yelling at me right now.
Fun salary cap fact about this team. They're still paying Dion Phaneuf this year and next year.
That is a fun fact. Are they also still paying Mike Richards?
They are. 1 more year.
So they've got 1 year of Mike Richards. They're still paying Dion Phaneuf. They're also paying Jeff Carter.
They are also paying Jeff Carter, yeah. Oh, they're paying Mike Richards. Sorry, I was thinking Jeff Carter when you asked about Mike Richards. Why do I get those guys confused all the time?
They were both on Dry Island or whatever that was in Philly.
That could be what it is. Mike Richards are paying for him for a while, but it's not a lot of money.
Right.
Jeff Carter, 1 more year, $2.6 million.
There we go. All right. That and thus ends the California branch of the Snides Tour.
Should we go north or should northern US or northern Canada? Because those are the next kind of batches of teams, right?
Let's certainly head north. And I think this next grouping, I do look at them as, a 3-stack, right? I think Seattle, Vancouver, Calgary are
agreed.
This next grouping. You wanted to put Vancouver. You debated Vancouver with LA. I was thinking Calgary versus LA. So it sounds like both of us think that one of them is worse than Seattle.
Yeah, but then I think about Seattle and I don't know, man. I cannot see Seattle pulling off we know that they didn't pull off a Vegas expansion just based on the roster that they picked and the moves that they made. I think for me, the biggest question is, okay, here's the thing. I'm mad at the Canucks because I've been on their train for the last 2 years saying, no, this team's good. They're going to be better than they look. And then they never are. So that's why I want to put them at the bottom, because I'm mad at them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and I mean, they still have to find a way. We're getting close to camp's opening, and they still do not have Quinn Hughes or Elias Pettersson signed, and do not have cap space to fit both of them in.
Yeah, so they're going to have to make some sort of move here.
Like, the Habs already did the Habs and Canes already did the offer sheet game. No one else is jumping on those, right? If someone was going to, they would have already
be done already. Yeah.
10.6 million. Someone's going to end up on injured reserve to make space for these two, but it's not looking like they'll be there at the start of camp even.
No. They also brought in Oliver Ekman-Larsson. You know what? I want to put the Flames below the Canucks. Here we go.
There it is. All right. Welcome to 5th place in this division, Calgary.
Yeah. Because as we're talking through this, Pettersson is better than any forward on the Calgary Flames.
Correct.
Quinn Hughes is better than any defenseman on the Calgary Flames.
Because they lost Mark Giordano to Seattle in the expansion draft.
Yeah. And I would almost argue that Oliver Ekman-Larsson is better than most of their defensemen. But I got to go back and look at their roster.
I mean, they got Noah Hannafin, Chris Tanev, Rasmus Anderson, Nikita Zadorov.
It's close.
They signed Eric Goodbranson this week. So,
yikes. So, yes, the Canucks are going to be the better team. Let's talk about Calgary.
So, I mentioned the captain, longtime captain, fan favorite, Mark Giordano off to Seattle. The only real significant addition this team made this year was the addition of Blake Coleman coming in from Tampa. And I do like his addition to this team. I think it gives them some more pieces on that side. He will be the signing that they thought when they signed Michael Frolik, what they thought they could get. I think Blake Coleman's going to be good on this team, but you lose Giordano. You don't fix anything with this roster, right? Brad Treliving in the start of the offseason said, this team is going to be different next season. And look at it. It's exactly the same.
Pretty much. Like minus Giordano, like you said, minus Sam Bennett. That trade happened last year, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And minus their backup goalie, which doesn't really matter one way or another. I just like, for me, the question with this team is this core of like Johnny Gaudreau, Sean Monahan. Like, how many years is it going to take for these guys to figure it out?
I mean, Johnny Gaudreau is not back with this team next year. In my mind, I would say that it was like Ducks, go sign him. Kings, go sign him. Someone else in the specific division with cap space can go sign Gaudreau.
Yeah. Well, and you talk about your trade deadline board. He's going to be up there too.
It's true. Who else do we have on there already?
The guy from San Jose, Hurdle.
Thomas Hurdle.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Hurdle, Gaudreau. I put Gaudreau ahead of Hurdle on the big board.
I would as well. Yes. And Gaudreau's not like a rental trade, right? That's like either a sign and trade or you trade for him with the intention of getting him long term. I
would think so. In the same way that Boston did with Taylor Hall, right? Like, look, we want you here. But it very well could become a short-term deal. I wouldn't be surprised with that. I would probably lean towards it being just a one and done for a team.
Could be.
But with the Flames being slotted 5th in this division, not going to be making the playoffs.
Doubt
not a playoff team. So, I would think that Gaudreau would be on the move at the deadline, if not sooner. If this team does not start well this year, you got to cut your losses, especially with Daryl Sutter coming back as the coach of this team. Gaudreau does not seem like a Daryl Sutter type player.
No, absolutely not. And really, like, let's be honest, that, the really good thing that Daryl Sutter brings to this team is the entertainment of the press conferences.
Yes.
We can look forward to that.
We can look forward to more, because we don't have Torts anymore. Like, we need to have some surly coaches, and Sutter's going to give us that.
Surly and just kind of like mumbling in circles.
Yeah. If you don't want to know what's being said, tune into a Calgary postgame. All right. Which brings us...
Sorry, I have one more question about the scene. Matthew Tkachuk. He in it for the long haul?
I could see him being in it for the long haul, yeah.
Because he's got one... This is his last year on his deal, and then he's an arbitration-eligible RFA.
I would think that he stays long-term. I would say that they sign him to like the 8-year whatever.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Right.
So now we got Vancouver or Seattle.
I'm leaning Vancouver here, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we just did this with Vancouver and Calgary. Elias Pettersson, better than any forward Seattle has.
I was going to say, who is Seattle's best forward? Is it Jordan Eberle?
Jordan Eberle, I think.
Is that... So, okay. All right, so let's play that game. Let's play the game of who on the Canucks forward core is better than Jordan Eberle. Elias Pettersson.
Yes.
Bo Horvat.
Yes.
Brock Besser.
Brock Besser, I would think so.
What about JT
Miller?
That's where it becomes a question mark for me.
That's where it gets dicey. I agree.
Okay, so at least 3 are better.
Yes.
Now, defensively, Quinn Hughes is their top defender.
Yep.
And I would say, looking at that lineup for Seattle, I'm a big Vince Dunn fan. Mark Giordano's on the other side. So they're getting better the further back we go.
And then you get to the net.
And then you get in net and you got Philip Grubauer, and this is where Seattle is better. And it's possibly not close.
So you think the goalie tips it into their favor?
I think so. I think we've seen that that's what Vegas did, right? Vegas got got Marc-Andre Fleury in net and really rode that. And I think Philip Grubauer could do the same thing for this team.
So I agree with you there, but I think that, I don't think. In order to win a hockey game, you have to score goals. More goals than your opponent.
I've heard. Yep.
I don't believe that Seattle has the ability to score goals the way Vancouver does. Even if Vancouver's shooting against the Vezina Trophy, well, not the Vezina Trophy winning goalie, but finalist.
I mean, he should have been, but yes. Okay. I'm with you, because they need to at least be able to average 2.5 goals a game to be able to win.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
It's close. I think they're neck and neck right now.
All right. I'm with you. I'm willing to put Vancouver over Seattle. So that puts... I was wrong before. Was I wrong before? So now we've got Vancouver 4, Seattle 3. No, the other way around. Seattle 3, Vancouver 3, Seattle 4, which puts Vancouver in a playoff spot.
Wild. This is like the 3rd year in a row I'm predicting Vancouver is going to be in a playoff spot.
And last year,
horribly.
One of those 2 years you were right. Which brings us then to the top of this division. We have left the Vegas Golden Knights and the Edmonton Oilers.
This is a tough one. I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off. I think it's going to go Vegas number 1, Edmonton number 2.
Let's just say, is this hard? I don't think this is hard.
It's going to be hard for Edmonton.
Yeah.
I don't think they have what it takes to take down Vegas. At least I haven't seen it.
So Vegas made most notably the Marc-Andre Fleury subtraction this offseason, right?
Yes.
I believe the only significant move that they made pickup-wise was Dadonov.
Yes.
Okay, so not a whole lot going on. Oh, and the Nolan Patrick trade, right? Nolan Patrick, sending out Cody Glass, get Nolan Patrick back.
Sure.
So I would say Vegas is worse right now than they were last year. Would you agree?
Yes.
No, not significant. I mean, they're still top 2 of this division for sure.
Yes.
Edmonton. They made some moves. They signed. Was this a current year? I'm going to double check that one. But the big piece they went out and picked up Zachary Hyman.
Yep.
Okay. Which contract, etc., being what it is better than some of what they were trotting out last year.
Yes. That move made their team better for sure.
Yes. They also went out and picked up Duncan Keith.
Did it make their team better, Carl?
I mean, if we're comparing Duncan Keith to the 6th defenseman that he would replace, or I guess for this trade's purpose, it would be, because they didn't give up any roster players for this one, did they?
No.
In the Keith trade? Okay,
2
so
draft picks.
It would be the 6th defenseman. Essentially, I guess Ethan Bear, because that's who's gone. I think right now Duncan Keith is better than Ethan Bear.
Statement.
Now, you know who's not better than Ethan Bear?
Who?
Cody Ceci.
Oh, I forgot they went and got CC. Really classic Ken Holland.
They also went out in that Ethan Bear trade, sending him to Carolina. They got back Warren Fogle. So on defense, they added Keith, CC. They lost Bear up front. They added Fogle and Zach Hyman.
I feel like it's a lot of moves to make your team just a little bit better.
It is a lot of moves to make your team just a little bit better. Because they also have Mike Smith back in net.
So, there's they got to do something in net. That hurts their team very much. Their situation.
I cannot look at this team and say, yes, they have the top players, right? Like their best player is better than any player on Vegas, right? Connor McDavid, hands down.
Yep.
I would probably, then you get in a conversation between like Draisaitl and Stone. That's a conversation to have.
Yep.
But the Robin Lehner, Mike Smith, Mikko Koskinen debate is not even close.
Not even close.
I'm not listening to that debate. So, to me, it's Vegas.
I agree. That's where I'm at as well.
All right, so there we go. So, our official final Pacific Division preview has the Ducks in 8th, the Sharks in 7th, the Kings in 6th, the Flames in 5th, Seattle Kraken in 4th, the Vancouver Canucks in 3rd, the Edmonton Oilers 2nd, and your Pacific Division champs, the Vegas Golden Knights.
That would be a good placement for Seattle in their first season with this roster. If they can pull that off, that would be a very successful first season for them.
Because that still puts them in play for a wild card.
Yeah.
Right? I think if we're playing this game next week against the Central Division, I'm not sure that I'm going to put them in a wild card spot, but they're fighting for it.
Probably not.
Looking at the likes of, they're going to be fighting the Blues, the Stars, the Preds, the Jets for that final spot.
Yeah, pretty much.
Maybe the Wild.
Maybe even the Wild, yeah.
Yeah. Next week's is going to be a tough preview.
Yeah, next week we might fight. I'm going to do some more prep for next week.
Okay, well, just so you know, I am putting Colorado first in that division, and I will fight you on it.
Oh, we'll talk about it next week. You'll fight me?
Yeah.
Will you take me on in a death match?
Even the unmentionable one.
What kind of...
All right. Folks, here's what I want you to do. I want you to head to fourthlinepodcast.com to find out more about this show. I want you to head to, and it's actually the fourthlinepodcast.com, but I want you to go to @fourthlinepodcast on Twitter and tell us where you would put your teams in this division. Do you agree with us? Especially if you're a fan of one of these teams, tell us why we are wrong or why we're right. Is your team going to finish better than we gave them credit for? Or worse. Okay, let us know. We'll be back next week. We'll be previewing the Central Division. We've got to get these divisions done because hockey is coming sooner than we'd like. There are yellow leaves outside on the trees near my house. There is pumpkin. I've had multiple pumpkin dishes already this year, Nick.
It's getting pretty dark, pretty early.
Yeah, sunset is after 8 o'clock here in Calgary now, so
it's coming.
It's time. So till next week, see ya.
Time for us to wrap up another Fourth Line show. I know what you're thinking. You don't want us to go. Welcome to the start of our Snides Tour. And I don't know why McCarty would do the deathmatch. He must be poor.